how do you say, no, wait, Jeff, I'm building relationships here. I gotta stick with this, because I think a lot of people just give up too early.
You are 100% right. And that is one of the biggest problems, is the fact that people are expecting an immediate return on their investment, right? And the unfortunate part is it's absolutely not going to necessarily be immediate. I'm just over 2 years doing this, and I am now really starting to see some of the benefits from it. So, the downside is, let's be honest, there's a lot of people that do this as a job. They're not looking at it as a career. And those people are never going to do it, because they don't look down the road and say, in 5 years when I'm still here, or 3 years when I'm still here, or whatever it is. So I think the people you're going to see doing it are those who consider it as their professional career. They're planning on doing it forever. And it does take time. That's the one frustrating part about it is in our day and age of immediate gratification, it doesn't come that way. It's something that you have to build on. And like I say, the commitment part of it is interesting as well, because, it was hard initially, and then you start to get into the routine. It's almost like working out, right? You get to a certain point where you feel there's something wrong if you haven't worked out that day, if that's what you're into, right? Or whatever your thing is. And so I literally almost get it's very, very seldom where I don't have at least one post on my Facebook, whether it just be a meme or a picture of somebody that did pick up their vehicle, or it's not always a video. I mean, I don't have time to have videos up there every day, but I put some form of content up there. And I just make a conscious effort to do it. I mean, how long does it take? Find an article that's interesting or whatever it may be. It doesn't take that long. Post it on there. And then it makes me feel better when I do it, just because I've continued to do it. But yeah, it took a bit to get into that routine, but somebody told me right off the bat, which I was very appreciative of, is you have to do that. Otherwise, don't even bother doing it, because you're going to get so lost. You're never going to be at the top of people's views or any of that kind of stuff if you're not constantly posting something. And the other thing I've also learned too is, the more content you post, obviously the better opportunity you have. Don't put fluff out there. Put things that are at least of value. But the more you have out there, the more opportunity you're going to reach somebody. Because just because you put 5 posts on your Facebook that day, for an example, doesn't mean that same person's going to see it 5 times. But it could mean that you're going to be hitting different people, because each of those posts should be different. So you're going to be hitting different areas, and different people are going to see it on their timelines and so on, right? So all that being said, it gives me motivation just to keep doing it. Now I can see the fruits of my labor, and that's what I try and tell people. The hard part is telling people that, listen, it's an investment, right? It's an investment in time, and it will start to come. And as you said, it starts to snowball, but it takes a little bit before it gets to that point. But to convince some people of that is hard.
Yeah. And it's funny as you're saying this, because I can even think to my social presence, and there's been times where it's super strong. There's times where it falls apart, and you're like, dude, what am I doing? But what you just said really stands out to me, and I think it's helpful for a lot of people to understand this. You might post something one day that doesn't get a ton of interaction. And you're right, in this immediate gratification kind of world that we live in, we immediately go, oh, well, it didn't get a ton of one-to-one interaction, therefore there's no value to it. You don't realize, but the value is that when somebody eventually turns around and goes to General Motor Jeff's Facebook page and scrolls down and doesn't see 14 days between each post, sees this consistent flow of whatever, all of a sudden the one-to-one interaction becomes very irrelevant. It all becomes about the consistency of whoa, this dude's active.
Right.
And I think we always forget about that. And I love that you're stressing hey, it's taken me 2 years and now it's starting to pay off. You had mentioned because of the immediate gratification, we want this one-to-one mapping. And we see this all the time. People want to know, I run Facebook ad, I got lead. And it's but we know the attribution window in Canada at least is an average of 73 days or something.
Right.
So you can't go ran ad, didn't get lead. These ads must be ineffective. You actually got to dig into your analytics, go to your attribution reporting and go 73 days and be oh, look at how many first point of contacts these ads were. And then people came back to my site 17 times and on the 18th time submitted a lead. Right.
Exactly.
And it's the same thing with this. And the thought that came to my mind, Jeff, was, but you're right. It takes time, but what else are you going to do? You've got, all we have is time.
Exactly.
Everybody, I think we watch too much of the Gary V sometimes, or the Grant, or insert prominent player here. And they're like, time is money and your time is valuable and your time. Yeah, but time is only valuable in relation to what you do with your time. If you're just sitting there like hiding out in the service department watching the game,
exactly.
Your time, well, I'm worth 100,000 a year. No, you're worth 0,000 a year because you're not doing anything. And so I love that, you put stress on like, yeah, it takes time, but hey, you're spending the time anyway. Like, what are you doing with your time right now? For those that are listening right now and they're listening to Jeff explain his process here, dude, you're listening. Who, like, if you're going in to be a surgeon, would you not want to be paying attention to what the master surgeon is telling you? Well, we got a master surgeon here who's saying, hey, it took time. I've run my thesis. I wrote my papers. I did my articling. I did my practice. And now I'm seeing the fruits of my labor. Well, like, dude, 2 years. Think of how fast the last 2 years has gone by.
I said, I can remember my first video. It was that Traverse in 2018, and it doesn't seem like it was that long ago, to be honest with you.
Well, it's yesterday. In relative terms, you're going to look back 15 years from now. You've built this juggernaut book of business with repeat referrals, loyalty, generational customers, right? Like you're at the point where you're going to be, you're seeing dad who had kids when they, who just had a newborn the first time they bought a car from you. Now that 16-year-old is coming to buy their first car from you.
And exactly. And I think you just hit that on the head. That was something I did want to mention. And I was hoping it was going to come up at some point in this conversation is a lot of people also don't realize it's not just to sell. It's not to advertise, right now, but the whole idea with that I'm now finding again, 2 years in, is the retention factor, right? So if somebody you've already sold to, you put your picture up there, they're always following you, they're liking your stuff every now and then. I sold this person a GMC Sierra. Anytime I put something GMC up, a lot of times that same person's liking it. Dude, they're going to remember you, right? Like, you're not going to be forgetful in that person's mind. I mean, obviously we still have to make our calls or emails, but I have a relationship past just that sale with these people now because I'm in their face more and I'm always constantly reminded. And when they, whether it be a family member or a friend, like, hey, listen, go check out his Facebook, or this is the guy I dealt with, or, I've had customers say they shared a video I did with one of their friends who was looking for a particular vehicle. So I'm going to be using this as a huge retention tool as I go forward. Obviously, the longer I do it, the more it's going to work as a retention tool. But I've already seen that it is a retention tool for me because there's customers I sold to 2 years ago that are still commenting on there now, right? And I think from a lot of people, I've seen it. When I first came in this industry, I saw people would come to the showroom and like, well, who'd you buy your vehicle from 4 years ago? I don't remember. Right?
Yeah,
like it's so easy to forget people, even if they're still at the dealership. So I'm looking at it as a huge retention tool as well.
How do you, because obviously the competition is fierce, and we're looking at, I guess let me preface this. Competition from face value is fierce. I'm a firm believer that my true competitor is who I see in the mirror. Because nobody else really knows what I want in my life, and I don't really know what everybody else wants in their life. Like, I don't know what your true definition of success is, so it would make no sense for me to like be chasing what I perceive you're doing, because then it just seems inauthentic. But you've maintained an authenticity in a very competitive market. So I guess my question is, what do you do? What mechanisms have you found or have put in place to ensure that every piece of content you put out or every social post you put out is authentic to who you are?
Well, first step, and I did a video on this, is you have to be yourself, right? So you can't go in with this persona, this act that you're somebody you're not, because it'll eventually, and they're going to come and see you in the showroom at some point anyways, right? So being authentic is being authentic, like, you know what I mean? Like right off the bat, just be yourself. And I do things that I'm generally excited about, right? So I think that portrays that comes across to the customer as well, from my videos and the things I do. It's things that I'm interested in. And it's kind of hard because sometimes I'm sure there's things like I don't focus on the Chevy Spark, for example, very much. We don't sell very many of them where we are, that kind of stuff. They're a great car, but just for my market, and it's not a big interest to me. So it would be hard for me to relay that excitement on that particular, unless somebody's looking at it, of course, specifically, right? But I'm probably not going to be focusing on that. I focus on the things that interest me, that excite me, and it's easy at that point. What I just talked about the brand as well, right? If I was doing another brand, I'm not bashing any of the brands. Everybody's making good stuff, but it would be hard for me to be excited about this certain model if I wasn't genuinely excited about it, right? So I do the things that I'm excited about, and I think and hope that comes across as being genuine, because it is, being authentic because it is, right? So that's what I found, is you just have to do the things that you're generally interested in, you're generally excited about, and don't force anything. Like anything forced, people are going to read through that.